All right, back to the Dish and Swish podcast. I'm Amadeus Peterson here with the Trevor Trost, and hey, we made it back from Maine,
We
and
made it
lots
back
of
from Maine. I was never there, but I feel like I was there with you in spirit. But
no,
yeah, we're back.
yeah, we're back. We're back with lots of interesting news this week. It seems like every week there's more news than the week before. I don't know. They keep topping itself.
I feel like this week we had a lot of news that could have been classified as like random news segments. Like it was just like interesting stuff all around.
Yeah,
Um, there's been a lot of stuff blowing up on social media that we're going to
yeah.
address here. We got a lot of things to go over. We're going to start with our big stories, our recap of our game of the week, go through our upcoming game of the week, and then kind of go to a team spotlight, team low light, question mark. What do we got going there? And then
Yeah.
random news. And as always, we end with edition Swish draft. Amadeus is up today, so we got a lot ahead. Let's get right into it.
All right, let's get into it. So this week, I mean, if we're just really getting into it, this week you've probably heard Josh Giddey's name in the news. Maybe not for some basketball related stuff. Uh, Josh Giddey has had obviously player on the Thunder, 21 years old. Was drafted 2 years ago. He's been playing really well with the Thunder, but he's had these accusations against him that he's been dating a junior in high school.
How old did you say he was?
21.
All right. So
Yeah,
first and foremost, that's probably not the best thing. Let's be honest. Um,
yeah,
these social media sleuths who have dug into their lives have picked apart all these things and kind of created these accusations, digging these so-found pictures and screenshots of Josh Giddey and this alleged junior in high school's relationship, underage. Um, Obviously, it's not good. If you're Josh Giddey, that's just really not good and not what you want. Obviously, I kind of believe in the innocent until proven guilty. I think there's a lot more to the story, but I'm gonna side on it's not looking good for Josh Giddey at this point.
yeah,
Those are some pretty serious allegations, and if they're true, uh, his NBA career is in question based on the outcome of what they find. And the NBA announced that they're
yeah.
investigating it, right? Like I think that's kind of the big thing. So, what kind of impact does this have, in your opinion, on the Thunder and the NBA as a whole?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's a question that they asked to the Oklahoma City Thunder coach Mark Daigneault, and he obviously just he didn't want to talk about it. He didn't really want to address it. But I think it's a big hit if you're the Thunder. If you lose Josh Giddey, I mean he's not scoring a ton. I think he's averaging about 12 points a game, but he does a little bit of everything. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife on the court. So I think if you're the Thunder, you're obviously worried about this, and it could honestly take a big hit because I mean the Thunder are I think currently the number 2 seed in the West, and so if you're losing one of your starters in the middle of the season, I think that could just push you back down the rankings. So I guess we'll see what happens. We'll see what the NBA finds out.
Yeah.
Obviously, Josh Giddey and Mark Daigneault haven't commented that much, so we don't really have that much information. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think the big thing is the NBA has got to figure this out quickly. It gained so much traction um, recently, especially over the holiday with everyone's on their phones. It kind of blew up. And I think the big thing is the NBA is under a lot of scrutiny for what's happened in the past. The past couple of years, there's been a lot of big name incidents that have happened with, Miles Bridges and Ja Morant. There's just been a lot of big things happening. And so the NBA is undertaking a lot of hits. And I think that honestly, that if they find him guilty, it's going to be really bad for him because the NBA has already been in question for the way they've handled some of the past things. And I think that they kind of want to set a precedent that this is not okay. So it's going to be an interesting storyline to follow. Obviously, we're kind of just going off what we have, the allegations at this point, but there's a lot that could happen. I don't want to, just slander a dude before we even know if he's completely guilty, but there's a lot of ways that this could go, and if he's anywhere near what the allegations say, the NBA's got some big decisions. I mean, and legally, I mean, he could be prosecuted. So there's some big things that could happen there. So we'll just kind of leave it there and kind of maybe monitor it as it plays out. But we kind of want to do away with that subject and get into some actual, maybe some more basketball related news. The Miami Heat have been contacting the NBA and are looking to maybe file a lawsuit over the raised court in Cleveland injury. Can you kind of give us, have you seen the video on that?
Yeah, I've seen the video on that. Yeah, so I guess what happened is that in Cleveland there is a spot in the court that isn't filled, and so there's a big hole in the court on the bench, and so usually players aren't there, but in this particular situation, the player, I think it was Drew Smith? He closed out and he's like going to the bench and his foot goes into the court because there's a missing tile in the court. And so, I mean, I think he had a grade 3 ACL sprain. And so, I mean, he's looking to miss time just because of this one little thing that, the Cavs were missing in their court, which is honestly a frustrating way to get injured.
Yeah, it's definitely not something you want to see. After watching the video, it's kind of a freak accident, but at the same time, this is something that could have been prevented. Have you ever seen a missing tile piece I don't know if I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, because I think when his foot went into the court, I was worried that, like, I guess I thought his foot disappeared. I'd never seen anything like that in my entire life. And so yeah, it was definitely something unprecedented. But hopefully, yeah, Drew Smith recovers, and hopefully they're able to sort that out with the NBA, and hopefully they're able to get that filled in.
Yeah, they need to get that. That's first and foremost on the docket. Get that filled in. Cost a guy a whole year of his career, so that's never what you want to hear. So hopefully Drew Smith makes a full recovery soon. But that kind of brings us to our recap of the game of the week. Last week was the Kings and the T-Wolves. Was actually interesting because the Minnesota Timberwolves were favored in the game, and then the T-Wolves or the Kings ended up winning the game 124 to 111. Can you kind of give us a breakdown on those two teams?
Yeah, I mean, two of the best teams in the West going at it in the same pool for the in-season tournament. And obviously, this win kind of slingshotted the Kings into a potential quarterfinal berth into the in-season tournament. Yeah, the Kings are 9-6, and they're 6th in the West. They've obviously been dealing with injuries. De'Aaron Fox has been out for a time, and but he's back. And in this game, he played really well, scoring 36, having 12 assists, 7 rebounds. And yeah, De'Aaron Fox just is maybe the best closer in basketball, and it's fun. It's fun to watch him when he kind of gets into his element and starts getting shots, starts seeing him fall. But yeah, I guess on the other side, what do we see with the Timberwolves?
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota, I kind of wanted to spotlight them here for a second. They're playing some great freaking basketball at this juncture. They're 11-4 on the season. They're actually tied for first in the West. If they win tonight, they extend their lead too. Anthony Edwards is just playing spectacular basketball. Karl Anthony Towns, they're really just playing as a unit. Obviously, this game didn't work out well for them. Ant still had 35-7-5, and Cat had 27-11-4. But overall, Minnesota's, I think, in my eyes, really making a push because they have the right cohesive unit right now, and they're just playing really good basketball. So I'm excited to see what Minnesota does because they're looking like the team to beat in the West at this point, and are, in my opinion, playing the best basketball in the West. So that'll be a fun thing to monitor how they continue doing. But this week we have another a game on Friday. What do we have?
Yeah, we got the battle of, in my opinion, the two best teams in the East. We have Philadelphia and Boston. That game's on Friday. And I guess, yeah, we'll see Tatum versus Embiid, I think is the big story, and kind of who's going to be the team to be in the West, in the East, sorry. Um, and it kind of, right now it looks like these two have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. And so, I mean, this game is kind of like a grudge match, to really see who is that team, and who's going to be the number one seed in the East come April.
Yeah. No, we definitely are seeing a battle of two MVP caliber players. Embiid averaging 32, 6, and 11. And Tatum averaging 28, almost 28, 9, and 4 assists per game. So, and then they both have pretty good co-stars with Tyrese Maxey, who we've talked about in episodes past, and Jaylen Brown. So can you kind of give us a breakdown? You've kind of given it a little bit, but if you had to say it in a couple sentences or give us an explanation, why is this our game of the week this week?
Yeah, I think no one was expecting the 76ers to be this pulled together. But yeah, we've kind of seen players on the 76ers step up. In players like, obviously, like Tyrese Maxey, but even players like Kelly Oubre, who's making a recovery from injury, who's coming back, looks like actually really soon, surprisingly, after fracturing ribs. And then players like Paul Reed and like Robert Covington from the Clippers trade are making big contributions. And then on the other side, the Celtics are also a very deep team with Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White, and then the two stars. And so two of the deepest teams, great benches, and so it'll just be a battle. And then, yeah, I think everyone predicted the Celtics to be great, but it's kind of fun to see the 76ers giving them a run for their money.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it'll be, I mean, one game separates them in schedule and overall record. So it's definitely the game to watch this weekend on Friday, December 1st. And we kind of talked about two of the best teams in the league. On the other side, in the West, we have kind of put a note here that we kind of want to talk about these two, a team spotlight, but this week kind of a team low light, maybe some teams that aren't really performing up to expectations or to how well they've done in the past. What do you think? Who are these two teams, and what can you give us there on their background?
Yeah, so I guess the two teams that we wanted to talk about were the Clippers and the Warriors. So starting with the Warriors, Steph has been having maybe one of his best seasons ever, but there's no help. I think Andrew Wiggins might be one of the biggest disappointments this season. I mean, obviously last season not playing a big chunk of the season for, I guess, personal issues. But yeah, no, it doesn't really seem like anyone's stepping up. Clay hasn't had that great of a year. And I guess we've seen in seasons past, Clay's kind of kicked it into gear maybe in the second half of the season. But right now, the way the Warriors are looking at, we could see them outside of the playoff picture. And I guess I don't know what you want to add to that on that side of the Warriors.
No, yeah.
Or if you want to.
The Warriors are definitely, like you said, they have a lot of players that aren't performing up to expectations. And I think that comes with a lot of the problems that they've had, like you mentioned, with Wiggins not performing up to the level of Draymond Green and his off-court stuff. Klay Thompson had his first 20-point game, I think, all season, or over 15. I can't remember what it was the other night.
Yeah.
And it's just not good. So, and that kind of brings us to the Clippers, who are also kind of struggling. I think I looked, the Warriors and the Clippers are both 8-9 or 8-10, and 10th and 11th in West in the rankings. So both sitting on the very edge of the play-in picture. The Clippers side, they just have just a problem with their stars playing in the games and showing up. So I don't know if there's a ton to be addressed there. The whole Harden issue has been something that they've been trying to grow through, and we've talked about that, their growing pains that they've experienced, but they haven't really seemed to figure it out yet. And James Harden came out, was it last week, I think, or whatever, and said, once we figure it out, we're going to be really good. but when do they figure it out? What in your eyes do you think they need to do to fix what's going on there?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think part of the solution has already been figured out. I think moving Russell Westbrook to the bench was a big deal for the Clippers. There's just no way that you can play James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and Kawhi all in the same court, it's like just starting. But I think I guess now they need to be able to choose, like, okay, who are we going to run the offense through? Because I think for them, I think if things go well, it's going to be hard for another team to have, three or four perimeter defenders that can guard Paul George, Kawhi, James Harden all at the same time. And so I guess kind of whoever has the worst defender, I guess, should be able to pick their spots and be able to break them down, because I think each of them breaks down their defender pretty well off the dribble. It's pretty hard to stay in front of them. So I think kind of picking and choosing their spots is going to be a little bit of a growing pain. And yeah, Ty Lue's one of the best coaches in the league when it comes to X's and O's. So hopefully he can put him in positions to be successful. And so I think that the Clippers can figure it out. I think obviously people overreacted when they were on that 5-game losing streak, but it is going to take some time, and it will take some time playing together to figure out when those spots are open and when you should defer. And yeah, they're figuring it out.
They're figuring it out. But
Yeah.
that kind of leads us to our random news. Some people who aren't figuring it out. There's kind of been a beef for a long time. And one of those is on the Warriors that we've just talked about. Chris Paul and his arch enemy, Scott Foster. They've kind of had this feud for a long time. They've made jokes that Chris Paul doesn't get Scott Foster's calls. It's kind of been going back and forth. Chris Paul came out vocally last week and made a comment about it. It's kind of an interesting random news segment because it has nothing really to do with the game actually being played. It has more to do with their lifelong beef, supposedly. So I guess in your eyes, is there actually any traction behind these claims, or is it kind of just something that needs to be taken lightly?
I think there is traction to these claims. I think just because their history is so long, I think Chris Paul for the longest time had never won a playoff game reffed by Scott Foster. I think he was able to break that streak, but yeah, they've kind of had a history in the past, and I guess it all boiled over last week when Chris Paul got ejected by Scott Foster. And yeah, I guess in the clip you see Chris Paul using some choice words for Scott Foster, and then apparently, yeah, he talked about how Scott Foster had said something about his son, and yeah, I guess I think from here on out the NBA should not let Scott Foster ref any Chris Paul games. I think that should just be a rule of thumb. Let's move past it, because they've had a history in the past and not have to worry about this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, with those vocal of claims, I just don't see there is a way now, because it's been put out in the public, to have any way that Scott Foster should do the games, just because now that it's such a vocal thing, they can kind of make jokes behind the scenes and still have it. But now that it's so out in the open, I just don't see there being any way that they can get around, especially if every other call, if Scott Foster makes one wrong call against Chris Paul, then it just looks bad. So I think the NBA should, like you said, just keep him as far away from those games as possible. So we'll see what happens there. And talking about star players, it leads us to our next random news. Greg Popovich this past week at home had the Spurs fans stop booing Kawhi Leonard during some free throws. And I've never seen this before. I've watched a lot of NBA basketball and a lot of college basketball. And in my time playing and watching, I've never seen a coach mid-game, mid-free throws, go grab the microphone from the announcer and tell the fans to stop booing Kawhi. In your opinion, was it valid or not? Did Pop cross the line? I've seen a lot of opinions here, so I kind of want to hear what you think.
I feel like this is just quintessential Greg Popovich. Like if anyone were to do this, it would be Greg Popovich. It seemed very very in character for him. I mean, I wasn't frustrated by it. I guess personally, I guess I was just taken back, caught off guard by it because it's something I'd never witnessed before or seen before in my entire life. Like this player going up to the line, obviously, fans cheering and in this case booing because obviously the stuff that happened between Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs in the past, and then Greg Popovich, grabbing the mic and telling the fans to stop booing. I think is just something that we've never seen before. But yeah, I guess I don't think that it should be something that continually happens. But I mean, I'm okay to let it slide this one time.
See, I kind of am on the other side. Like, I think
Yeah.
it's kind of a no-no, bro. Like, if you want to lose support of your fans, that's one way to do it. The fans are there
Yeah.
supporting you. And honestly, like, I'm a big fan of Greg Popovich. I think he's one of the best coaches of all time. I just think, like, I know that there's the beef between Kawhi, or not the beef, but, the whole thing that happened between Kawhi and the Spurs and him leaving. But at the same time, I don't think it was really directed 100% at that reason. But the fans boo at every game over free throws. They want you to miss the free throws.
Yeah.
So I don't see it as being a big deal that the fans are cheer, but I just see it as one way to lose, a lot of interest from your fans and a lot of support from your fans is to say that, because he was kind of very stern. Obviously, he was very Greg Popovich about it. Like it was pretty funny. Like you said, it was very quintessential. That's a big word, quintessential Greg Popovich. But I just think it was let's let the game be played how it's played. People are gonna boo, people are gonna cheer. Like, let's not do this, because I just feel like it adds a different element to the game where you're gonna lose a lot of popularity among your fans. And maybe he doesn't care because he doesn't really care what they think. But
No.
at the same time, the fans are there to support you. So I don't know. I think that maybe let's not do that again. But yeah. So
yeah, I guess the Spurs fans already don't have a lot to cheer about. I think they're on a 12-game losing streak after starting the season. I think they started the season 3-2. And I think they've lost 12 straight. So yeah, after a promising start, things are looking ugly for the Spurs.
sorry, they just want the number one pick next year too.
Yeah, so pair him with Wemby. So
yeah, pair him up. Get him back. That'd be kind of a nice duo. I'm not even gonna lie. Ron Holland and Wemby.
Yeah, that honestly be pretty nice. Nice. Hey,
but
I guess this next tomorrow is the last game of the in-season tournament. That's kind of crazy?
That is kind of crazy. It feels like it was just barely that it started, which it was because the NBA season is so new. But
yeah,
I don't know. Went quick, but I mean, good for them. Let's get through it. I'm excited for the playoffs or whatever, the tournament to actually start.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm interested to see how it shakes out.
Speaking of players in the NBA in-season regular tournament, we've kind of talked about overperformers, underperformers, in players in weeks past, players that take the last shot. And I kind of want to go to the other end of the spectrum for this week's Dish and Swish draft. I kind of want to go through your most overrated players in the NBA and kind of hear maybe a quick explanation why. Who are your top five? And it doesn't mean let me clarify here. It doesn't mean these guys are bad players. It just means that they are getting more popularity or hype than they are actually good for in games.
Yeah. So this is a tough list. I mean, some of these guys are hoopers, but I just think that maybe they get too much love. I think so. We'll start it off at number 5. In my list of most overrated players, I have Julius Randle. In my 4, I have Trae Young. In my 3, I have DeMar DeRozan. In my 2, I have Domantas Sabonis.
Jeez.
And in my 1, I have Jordan Poole. Yeah, there it is. I guess I can give you an explanation for all of these. Some of them I think really explain themselves very well. Yeah, what's your take on my top five most overrated players?
I think you nailed it for most of them. I don't know about Sabonis. I kind of like Sabonis, but I can see it. I can see it. Um, he's a disliked player for sure. Julius Randle probably would have been higher up on my list. I feel like that guy, ever
Mm.
since he made the All-Star game, everyone's been talking about how, I mean, for the last couple of years, how good he is, and he's just when it comes time in the clutch, he's just so bad. Like 4 for 17.
Dude,
He's shooting toward eights.
yeah, every season tour dates. Every season it seems like he's either has a really good year or an off year, and you can't really put it together. You can't really rely on him, and it's kind of frustrating as a fan to watch someone who has lots of upside and really great potential to not live up to it. You know.
For sure. For sure. I think it's a solid list. So from here on out, what do we have to look forward to in the coming weeks?
Yeah, in the coming weeks we got yeah, I got some USB drives because my little embroidery machine to make apparel. You need a little USB plug-in to put your own designs. So
Oh, shoot.
apparel on the way.
Shoot.
Apparel on the way, I guess. Yeah, I guess we'll also this next week we want to break down the in-season tournament, the teams that make it, and what it's looking like, how it will shake out, the teams that we think are going to go to Vegas, and who we think will win it. I think it'll be a big deal. I think to be the first one to win any award is kind of cool, I guess. So we'll be able to talk about who's in the running and who we like to win that. But yeah, big things, big things.
Yeah, big things. Definitely once we get our apparel up and going, we'll do a giveaway of our apparel. We're kind of waiting on me. I have some logistical things that we've been waiting on. Shout out to me. Sorry, guys. I'm the reason. But we'll get it going here soon. And yeah, we got a lot to look forward to. We're going to try to get some more interviews on the way.
Mhm.
But yeah, if you guys can, please follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. We're on everything. Share it with your friends. We're trying to get the name out there. We enjoy doing it. That's why we're here every week. Rain, snow, shine. If we're halfway in Maine, I don't know, wherever we are, we could be across the United States, and we're still recording. So we're here, and yeah, thanks for listening. This is the Dish and Switch podcast, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right, have a great week.